This morning Bitcoin dumped below the $75,000 again, and this was all because the Trump tariffs are worldwide in effect, so this is having a very bearish effect on the markets. In this video I'm going to tell you exactly what we can expect for Bitcoin, so you don't want to miss anything I'm going to tell you about Bitcoin in this video. There's a lot of interesting news coming into the market, and also the S&P 500 and the other stock markets are dumping like crazy. Also the Bitcoin and the Ethereum ETFs are showing interesting price action. And later in the video I will also have a look at the two altcoins, Vechain and Solana. So please slap on the like button because it will help this channel a lot. And with that being said, now let's dive right into the charts. On the 4-hour time frame we can see that Bitcoin was holding this huge horizontal support very well, but now we are breaking below it and we can already see a little bit of a bearish retest unfold. So we broke below this huge support area on the 4-hour time frame, and we are now retesting this previous support as resistance. So from here we could also see that Bitcoin is going to aim for lower prices, and this could also be a very interesting place to take a short for Bitcoin. But however, we also want of course to see that Bitcoin is going to invalidate this resistance area and that we're eventually going to see a breakthrough above it. We can also see a little bit of a double bottom forming, and this W pattern is actually a very bullish reversal bias pattern. So we could also see a reversal coming into the market very soon. But however, keep in mind that we're now coming below this huge horizontal support, so we could also see a little bit of a bearish retest in the coming hours. And yesterday we saw $1.5 trillion wiped out from the US stock market, and it was one of the worst days ever. So this was also because President Trump signs a new executive order officially raising tariffs on China to 104%. And of course Xi Jinping is not very happy about it, and he is also going to counter-trade this trade war. And of course today the worldwide US tariffs are going officially into effect. So this is causing a lot of very volatility into the markets and also a lot of panic. But however, President Trump says in a speech of yesterday that countries are kissing his ass to make new trade deals. And of course a lot of people in the world and a lot of European leaders are calling Trump because they want to negotiate about trade wars and also about the tariffs. So maybe in the coming weeks things will settle and we will just see the market continue to rise. But however, if we have a look at the chart of the US 500, so the S&P 500, we can already see that we are seeing a huge bear market behavior, because officially we are now in a bear market because we are down for 20% since the all-time high. So that means that we are in a bear market. So for now, this is looking very bad, and it looks a little bit similar like the COVID crash we saw here in 2020. Let's go back to 2020. That is what we saw here in the 2020 COVID crash. We saw a huge spike to the downside, but then we also saw a huge V-shaped recovery. So let's see if we can see a similar reaction to the markets like in 2020, and that of course will be very bullish. So for instance, it would look a little bit similar like this, and I think of course eventually in the end we will create new all-time highs. And zooming into the daily chart for Bitcoin, we can see this huge falling, broadening wedge for Bitcoin. We can see multiple touch points here on the top side as resistance, and also on the lower side we can see multiple touch points as support. Yesterday in my video I talked about this huge support on the lower side, but currently we fell below it, and we are seeing a little bit of a bearish retest as I said earlier. So for now we are still inside of this huge formation. So for instance, we could see a little bit of a price squeeze for Bitcoin unfolding, and eventually we could either see a break to the top side or a bearish break to the downside, and that of course will bring Bitcoin back to lower prices. And if we're going to see a break to the top side, then we can aim for the higher prices, and then the top side of the formation will be confluent with the breakout target, and that will bring Bitcoin back to all the way to the $108,000, aka the last all-time high. So for now we are bouncing below this huge resistance area. So if Bitcoin is coming back to this resistance area, I want to see a bullish break, a confirmation, and then a retest of the resistance to test it as support, and then I'm going to long the market for Bitcoin. And zooming into the 1-hour time frame, we can see that Bitcoin still opened the CME gap around the $84,132. We are also seeing this huge W pattern unfolding. So we could for instance see a little bit of a reversal, because the W pattern is a typical bullish reversal pattern. So I think Bitcoin will eventually close this gap, and that could bring Bitcoin all the way to the $84,000. So this could of course be a bullish move, but however keep in mind that 99 out of 100 CME gaps don't get filled. But I think eventually we will fill this gap, if it's not in this week, maybe in the coming weeks. So eventually Bitcoin will come back to the $84,000. So these are the times you will look for opportunities. And then let's have a look at the Bitcoin ETF flow of yesterday. We saw a huge outflow of more than $326.3 million. So this is insane, of course. And this was especially because BlackRock was selling a lot of Bitcoin. They sold for more than $252 million. So this was causing also a little bit of a bearish effect on the markets. But however, if BlackRock is going to buy Bitcoin again, we could maybe see a reversal of the Bitcoin chart. And if we then have a quick look at the Ethereum ETFs, we can see a little bit of a negative day. We only saw Fidelity selling their portion of Ethereums, and we saw an outflow of $3.3 million. So this was nothing too bad, but also the Ethereum price chart is looking very bearish, just like the Bitcoin chart. So let's see if the ETF can turn things around in the rest of the week. And zooming out to the daily time frame, we can see that Bitcoin is still creating this huge bullish divergence. We can see lower lows on the chart, on the price chart, and we can see higher lows on the RSI chart. And this indicates that the selling pressure is cooling off and that we are eventually going to see more buying pressure coming into the market. And of course, this would be very bullish. And this is a typical bullish reversal pattern, just what we want to see. And especially on the daily time frame, if we're going to see a bullish divergence just like that, we will see a huge reversal probably. So keep in mind that I'm looking at this huge bullish divergence, and I've warned you about this bullish divergence. So for instance, if the RSI is going to spike, we will also see a spike in the price action of Bitcoin, and that could bring Bitcoin back to the above the $80,000 again, and it could happen in an instant. So this is what I'm looking at. So I've warned you about this bullish divergence now. And another interesting chart I want to have a look at is this Bitcoin rainbow chart. We can see that Bitcoin in the past was inside of this huge rainbow pattern, and this is one of the most interesting charts I have a look at for Bitcoin. So currently we are still at accumulate and buy zones. So Bitcoin is still very cheap, and you want to buy at these prices. And for instance, if Bitcoin comes back to the, let's say, the yellow or the orange lines, we already see prices above the $100,000 and very much higher and higher. So this could be very bullish, and in the last cycles we saw Bitcoin even break above it and also come to the red lines. So for instance, if Bitcoin comes back to this huge horizontal orange line, we could maybe see price around $200,000. But of course, this is a little bit far-fetched now. And I think we need to step up our game, but I think the bull market for Bitcoin isn't over yet. And the first interesting altcoin I want to have a look at is Vechain. We can see Vechain is inside of this huge falling channel to the downside, and we can see multiple touch points here on the top side as resistance, and also on the lower side we can see multiple touch points as support. And finally we will see a huge breakthrough either the top side or the downside. But this falling channel formation is actually a typical bullish price pattern, because we are about to see a huge reversal soon. And if Vechain is going to break out to the top side, this will be the first big resistance on the horizontal resistance. So on the daily time frame, this could be the next make or break point, and that will bring Vechain all the way back to the 4.3 cents. So if we have a look at another interesting daily chart, we can see Vechain is inside of this huge falling wedge. And if we then zoom out to the weekly time frame, we can see another falling wedge unfolding later in the last year. And Vechain is loving falling wedges, because eventually, if this falling wedge breaks out, we are seeing a huge retest of the resistance as support. Then we are seeing a huge spike to the top side, and this rise will only happen for maybe 4 or 5 weeks. And we saw a huge rise for more than 240%. So for instance, if Vechain is going to break out, we could already see another increase of 240%, and that will bring Vechain all the way back to the 6 or 7 cents. So it could happen in the coming weeks, or it could happen maybe later this year. But however, I am still very bullish on Vechain, and let me know in the comments what is your price prediction for Vechain in 2025. And the next altcoin I want to have a look at is Solana. We can see that Solana made an all-time high earlier this year of around the $260, but currently we are coming below the $100, and currently we are at the $107. So we also see that this huge horizontal support and resistance was coming into play. We saw a lot of resistance and support coming around this level, and a lot of price action happened around this level. So we are currently breaking below it. So this could also mean that Solana is going to retest this level to test this as resistance, and then we have to aim for lower prices. But however, we want the Solana to see some strength, and that we come above this huge horizontal level again. But I think in the past we saw a lot of price action around this level, so a lot of liquidity is around that level. So yeah, let's have a look at another very important daily chart. Then we can see that Solana is in this huge falling wedge formation, and this falling wedge is eventually coming to a huge breakout, and we're coming closer and closer, and the apex is almost getting reached. So if Solana is going to see a break to the top side, I'm going to wait for a confirmation of the break. Then I'm going to wait for a retest of the resistance to test it as support, and then I have to aim for higher targets. And then the breakout target will be confluent with the break with the top side of the formation, which will bring Solana all the way back to the $270. But of course, yeah, we have to be a little bit patient before this huge falling wedge formation is going to break out. And let me know in the comments, are you still bullish on Solana, and are you still buying Solana below the $100? So again, please like the video if you think it was useful. Don't forget to follow me on my Twitter, and also you can also join my free Telegram group, which just by clicking the links in the description under this video. And with that being said, I hope you liked this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.